Mariah Carey, 1990. Mariah Carey's self-titled debut album dropped on June 12, 1990, and changed pop music forever. This album was carefully planned by Columbia Records, who spent over $1 million promoting it. The album mixed slow ballads with upbeat tracks, showing off Mariah's incredible 5-octave vocal range right from the start. The album gave us 4 number-1 singles. Vision of Love was the first, and it introduced the world to Mariah's whistle register. That song alone influenced an entire generation of singers. Then came Love Takes Time, which Mariah wrote just as the album was being finalized. Someday and I Don't Wanna Cry followed, making Mariah the first artist since the Jackson 5 to have their first 4 singles hit number 1. The album stayed at number 1 on the Billboard 200 for 11 consecutive weeks. And it sold 15 million copies worldwide and won Mariah 2 Grammys for Best New Artist and Best Pop Vocal Performance. Critics praised her vocal ability, but some felt the production was too polished and commercial. Still, this album proved Mariah was here to stay. Emotions, 1991. Just over a year later, Mariah released Emotions on September 17, 1991. This album was different. Mariah had more creative control this time. She worked with C+C Music Factory and legendary songwriter Carole King. The sound was influenced by 1970s disco and gospel, especially on the title track. Emotions became Mariah's 5th consecutive number 1 single, making her the only artist to have their first 5 singles reach the top. The album also included Can't Let Go and Make It Happen. While critics liked Mariah's vocals, and some felt the album was too calculated, it sold 8 million copies worldwide, which was good, but less than her debut. This showed that matching that first success would be tough. Music Box, 1993. Music Box arrived on August 31st, 1993, and became one of Mariah's biggest albums ever. This album took a more accessible pop approach with beautiful ballads and catchy melodies. It was designed to reach the widest audience possible. The album gave us Dream Lover and Hero, 2 of Mariah's most iconic songs. It also featured her cover of Without You, which became a massive international hit. Music Box topped charts in multiple countries and sold over 28 million copies worldwide. It's one of the best-selling albums of all time. The album was certified diamond by the RIAA, meaning it sold over 10 million copies in the US alone. Now, Merry Christmas, 1994. On November 1st, 1994, Mariah released her first holiday album. This wasn't just another Christmas album. It included All I Want for Christmas Is You, which has become the biggest Christmas song of all time. The song earned Mariah the title Queen of Christmas. The album mixed original songs with classic holiday covers. It featured both upbeat tracks and traditional ballads. Merry Christmas has sold over 15 million copies worldwide and is one of the best-selling holiday albums ever. It's been certified diamond and continues to chart every single year during the holidays. Daydream, 1995. Released on September 26, 1995, Daydream marked a turning point. Mariah started moving away from pure pop toward R&B and hip-hop. Next, she collaborated with Boyz II Men on One Sweet Day, which stayed at number 1 for a record-breaking 16 weeks. The album also featured Fantasy, which sampled Tom Tom Club and included a remix with Old Dirty Bastard. Always Be My Baby became another massive hit. This album showed Mariah taking more control of her music and musical direction. It sold over 25 million copies worldwide and was certified diamond. Critics saw this as the beginning of Mariah's musical evolution. Butterfly, 1997. Butterfly, released on September 10, 1997, is considered Mariah's most personal and critically acclaimed album. This came out during her separation from her husband and Columbia Records CEO Tommy Mottola. The album represented freedom and transformation. Mariah worked with new producers like Sean Combs, Q-Tip, and Missy Elliott, and her vocal style became softer and more breathy. The lead single Honey had a sexy music video that showed a new side of Mariah. My All and The Roof were also hits. While it didn't sell as much as Daydream, critics loved it. They praised its mature lyrics and adventurous production. This album solidified Mariah's transition from pop princess to R&B and hip-hop artist. Rainbow, 1999. Rainbow came out on October 27, 1999. This album continued Mariah's R&B and hip-hop direction. She worked with Jay-Z on Heartbreaker and collaborated with Westlife on Against All Odds. The album featured Can't Take That Away, which was very personal to Mariah during her struggles with Columbia Records. Rainbow debuted at number 2, making it Mariah's first album since 1994 not to debut at number 1. It sold 3 million copies in the US. While commercially successful, it showed that Mariah's relationship with Columbia was ending. This set the stage for major changes in her career. Glitter, 2001. Glitter was both a movie and a soundtrack album, released on September 11, 2001. The timing was terrible, coming out on the day of the 9/11 attacks. The movie was panned by critics and flopped at the box office. The soundtrack also struggled. Mariah had signed an $80 million deal with Virgin Records for this project. After its failure, she had a very public breakdown and was hospitalized. Virgin bought out her contract for $28 million. Glitter featured 1980s-inspired music with Loverboy as the lead single. This period was the lowest point in Mariah's career. The album has since gained a cult following, but at the time, it was considered a disaster. Charm Bracelet, 2002. After recovering from her breakdown, Mariah signed with Island Def Jam and released Charm Bracelet on December 3, 2002. The album's title came from her father's death during production. She wrote Sunflowers for Alfred Roy as a tribute to him. Charm Bracelet was more personal and stripped down. Through the Rain was the lead single. Critics called it an improvement over Glitter, but said it was too safe. The album went platinum, selling over 1 million copies in the US. While modest compared to her earlier work, it showed Mariah was still in the game. The Emancipation of Mimi, 2005. This was Mariah's biggest comeback. Released on April 12, 2005, The Emancipation of Mimi brought Mariah back to the top. She worked with Jermaine Dupri, Kanye West, Pharrell Williams, and Snoop Dogg. The album mixed R&B, hip-hop, art, and her signature ballads. We Belong Together became one of the biggest songs of the decade, staying at number 1 for 14 weeks. Shake It Off and Don't Forget About Us were also huge hits. The album sold over 10 million copies worldwide and was the best-selling album of 2005 in the US. It won a Grammy for Best Contemporary R&B Album. Critics called it one of the greatest comebacks in music history. E=MC², 2008. Released on April 15, 2008, this album's title stood for Emancipation equals Mariah Carey to the Second Power. It was meant to continue the success of Mimi. The lead single, Touch My Body, became Mariah's 18th number 1 hit. The album featured collaborations with T-Pain, Damian Marley, and Young Jeezy. It debuted at number 1 and went platinum. While successful, it wasn't as groundbreaking as Mimi. Critics felt it was solid, but played it safe. Memoirs of an Imperfect Angel, 2009. This album came out on September 29, 2009. Mariah wanted to create a more cohesive concept album. She worked with The Dream and Tricky Stewart, who were hot producers at the time. The album had a smooth, consistent R&B sound. Obsessed was the lead single and sparked rumors about Eminem. The album debuted at number 3 and received mixed reviews. Some critics appreciated its consistency, while others found it boring. It sold less than 1 million copies in the US. Merry Christmas to You, 2010, Mariah's second Christmas album, dropped on November 2, 2010. It featured original holiday songs and a few covers. The album had a more modern R&B sound compared to her first Christmas album. It debuted in the top 5 and went gold. While not as iconic as the first Christmas album, fans appreciated having new holiday music from Mariah. Me, I Am Mariah, The Elusive Chanteuse, 2014. This album, released on May 27, 2014, had one of the longest titles ever. It took years to complete because Mariah kept perfecting it. The album featured collaborations with Miguel, Fabulous, and Welo. Beautiful, featuring Miguel, and #Beautiful were the main singles. The album debuted at number 3 but had disappointing sales. Critics praised Mariah's vocals and some tracks, but felt the album was too long and unfocused. Caution, 2018, released on November 16, 2018. Caution was Mariah's return after 4 years. She worked with younger producers and artists, giving the album a fresh sound. Collaborations included Ty Dolla $ign, Blood Orange, and Skrillex. Critics loved it, calling it one of her best albums in years. The production was modern, but still sounded like Mariah. GTFO and With You were standout tracks. While it didn't sell millions, Caution proved Mariah could still make relevant, quality music. Here for It All 2025, Mariah's newest album dropped in September 2025 under her own label. Type Dangerous and Sugar Sweet featuring Shenzia and Kehlani were the lead singles. This album represents Mariah's independence and creative freedom at this stage of her career. Early reception has been positive from fans who appreciate her continued evolution as an artist. Mariah Carey's discography shows an artist who constantly evolved while staying true to her vocal gift and songwriting talent. From pop ballads to R&B and hip-hop collaborations, she's left an undeniable mark on music history.